We got another piece about this Skypersonic NASA contract, and that's separate from the teal drones thing. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. This happened a few days after the earnings call. There was an announcement by NASA that Skypersonic, which is the remote software, like the controlling drones from over the country sort of thing.
Yeah, Drew flew that drone inside their offices from Orlando. Like somehow they've got the latency down to usable.
Yeah, and so they're going to be using that real-time remote piloting platform for a simulated Mars mission. So while they're doing internal, like people living in the Mars Dune Alpha thing, where they're like isolated and they're in the habitat and they're like living on Mars, they'll be controlling the things like they will be on Mars with Skypersonic technology. And they made a 5-year deal there. So that's definitely pretty big for them and caused another bump in the stock. I think it went up.
Yeah, it caused a big bump in the stock.
78% or 85% or something was the peak off of open. And then we saw it drop back down a little bit. So.
And some people in the chat were like, oh, it was a pump and dump. It's not a pump. I mean, announcing that you got a NASA contract that will make you money and then your stock goes up. I mean, that's just how stocks work, right? It's not a pump and dump where you announce some fake piece of information. Then you also, it's not a pump and dump if nobody sold. I don't know that anybody sold, but
I think the big thing is like the amount of volume was just insane compared to the last time we had a pump and dump and the Teal acquisition happened. It was like 30 or 40 million trades. And then by, I think 10 a.m. there was up to 150 million trades that I was looking at. So a lot of movement going on, a lot of
movement. Yeah. I mean, that's all it just seems like these are things that a successful company is doing. They're getting contracts, they're selling products. I'm kind of stunned.
Yeah.
I'm happy, but I'm stunned. Why am I stunned? Why am I stunned?
A real company. Because it didn't seem like a real company.
It didn't. Like, I don't know how much my personal prerogative. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know that much about how this stuff works, but from my observation of it, all this hinges on the fact that they were able to acquire the funding because they were able to convince people in the IPOs or in the POs, whatever, to give them the money from buying the stock, right? The value now creates a big ass buffer of cash. So now when they're a million to 2 million in deficit from spending, it's not a thing because if you got 66 million in the bank. Well, so but suddenly a company that looked weird, right, is now like, hey, it doesn't matter how much we spend because that's like 10% or 5% or whatever.
The company looked weird to me because when I first met Jeff Thompson, he was like, yeah, we're going to do crypto. And I was like, okay, crypto, black box, blockchain, insurance. I'm like, okay, I don't like good, more power to you just because I don't get it. I'm not like you're the guy who previously made a, big multi-million-dollar company. So clearly you know what you're doing, but I didn't grasp really any of it. And it all seemed very speculative. And it has somehow gone to something very concrete. They acquired these companies. I believe from what we know, most of these companies, if not all of them, were acquired in no cash transactions. It was a stock, exchange. So they somehow convinced the owners of these companies to all be acquired by them. And it all seems to have worked out because now they have $60 million that they're sitting on. So I
was going to say, I think it's going to work out for everyone the way it's like planning. In the Q&A, Jeff said basically that like we're in every branch of the government in some way or another currently.
Yeah.
So like that's good for them.
One IFPV says, does anybody know who the seeders were? That's the thing. There were obviously Redcat had some rounds of investment before they acquired Rotor Riot, Fat Shark, etc. Like I'm sure that they had raised money from private investors before. I don't know the details of any of that, but but as far as I know, I'm pretty sure I'm sure that the Fat Shark acquisition was announced as a no cash acquisition, and I think that that's true for some of the others. Although I don't know how much of that was public, or I don't want to overstate what I know, but I don't think that, when Fat Shark was valued at $7 million in the acquisition, it doesn't mean that Redcat gave Fat Shark $7 million to acquire them. They didn't bring any cash to that transaction as far as I know. And if that's true for the others, it means that there was no
Yeah, I feel like it was a small amount, like under $1 million, and then the rest was options or something.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember seeing like 5 something and then 1. I don't remember exactly though. So.
Yeah. But the idea that Redcat acquired these companies with a giant pile of cash that they raised is actually completely backwards. Redcat, and seeing how it played out, I'm going to guess that they said, hey, if you agree to be acquired by us, we're going to go public and going to make a shitload of money. And it turns out they were right. So good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think now they're in a position to do whatever they need to do because they have this buffer, you know?
Mm-hmm. And we'll see what that is.
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be a bunch of stuff with the DoD, a bunch of stuff we won't see from really fancy military drones.
I don't care. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear you're going to make a new HD system that competes with DJI. $60 million, make it happen. No,
we can hope.
Not.